to Alvean at this time. Amen. Put your hands together and give God a praise for Alvean Lyons. Amen.
Amen.
It is, y'all, that'll get you on the way home. How do you deal with a mate that seems to deal with the past failed relationships?
You want to answer first?
No, I'm going to let you answer first.
I make room. I open doors for men too, okay? So how do you deal with, will you hand it to me so I can, the card, thank you. How do you deal with a mate that seems to deal with the past failed relationships? Here's one of the things, and do know that there's no such thing as a perfect answer, okay? They're just good ones. And depending upon the soil that they fall on will determine whether or not you get a good harvest that comes out of that, all right? So one of the realities that comes with relationships is the fact that you can't fix everything. And you can't fix it for someone else. You have to understand that there's only but so much control you're going to have within your relationship. There's only one person you can actually control inside of the relationship. You cannot control your partner. You can create the atmosphere for your partner to respond different kinds of ways, but you cannot control what somebody else feels on the inside or what they struggle with on the inside. So if you have a partner who's really struggling with what's going on in the past, all you can do is create an atmosphere for them to let go of that here in this space. Now, here's the only problem. If perchance you are helping to remind them of their past, you can't complain about the fact that they're still struggling with the things from their past. Now, that doesn't mean we can't have a conversation about the issues. We can have a conversation about the issues. But the mistake people make when it comes to conflict is that they attack the person rather than the issue. And how we do that is often heard in our language. If you're just cautious enough to back up and then be conscious enough to listen, hear the words that you say. When I say you, it is you instantly put the person in the situation where they feel they have to protect or defend themselves, okay? When I say I, even though we're getting ready to have a conversation about something that is happening in your world, but I own it first, I sometimes struggle with the times when I hear you say that this is going on or that you're working with that, because then even though we're talking about you, we're really focusing, I'm owning my piece of it. If everything that comes out of your mouth is you did, you always, I always tell my children, nobody always does anything. You could do it a lot, you could do it frequently, but if just one time you don't do it, that means you cannot say always. Always is without exception for eternity. I'm sure y'all are blessed, but ain't none of y'all living forever. Not in this natural world. So for you to say always is inaccurate. You haven't even known the person always. So how can you tell them that they always do anything? All you can say is what is happening at that moment as it pertains to you. Then when we're dealing with the fact that what is it in their past that they're struggling with? There's certain things in the past that are harder to get over. Past relationships can be tough, depending upon how you were bruised inside those relationships. If you were cheated on multiple times, it naturally will make you less trusting. But one of the things that you have to be mindful of is whatever it is that you withhold in the relationship. You remember we were talking about it yesterday, that love will always ask of you the thing that you are holding on to, the thing you don't want to give. Well, if inside of your relationship, in order to protect yourself, you have done this, let me give you a perfect example. See, a lot of times if something happens to me, originally, the first time, I have my whole heart out on the table because I don't have a reason to protect my heart from you. I haven't had a past experience that requires me to self-protect. But let's say I get cheated on, I get hurt in some kind of way, I am mistreated in some kind of way. The human instinct, so there's nothing wrong with you for having done it, but the human instinct is to protect a piece of your heart the next go round. So that now means that instead of putting 100% of my heart out there, I'm only going to put 75. Because I think that I could recover if something happens to the 75, because I still have this 25 that I've saved to protect me. But here's the problem that comes with that. Whomever it is who's loving you, this next person who did not do that thing to you that happened in the past, at his or her best, they only get to love 100% of your 75. What that will always create is that feeling for the person who's doing the withholding. He or she, something's missing with this person. I don't feel completely loved. I don't feel completely heard. I don't think that they fully understand me. Do you know why? Because 25% of who you are is not on the table for them to know, hear, understand, love, or have conflict with. See, the reality that comes with love is to experience complete love, you have to be willing to experience complete hurt. You can't have one without the other. So if I want my whole heart loved, I have to make my whole heart available, which means all of it can get crushed. There's no question about it. But it's the only way that all of it can get loved. So when someone is struggling with the issues in their past, they have to understand, potentially, what it is that is creating. That even if I give everything I can to what it is that you've offered me, you haven't offered me, all of you, to give everything that I can to. Which means that you get less than you deserve because of your protection, your inability to come out of the closet with the things that you struggle with, for us to unpack this luggage together. And every relationship is going to come with some luggage that you're going to have to unpack. The question is, are you capable of doing it? Are you willing to do it? And do you have the patience to do it? For those of us, how many of you have been on vacation before? Okay. What's really cute about vacation is you have such a good time packing your clothes ready to go. But how many of y'all leave your clothes in the suitcase for a minute when you get back? Okay? Isn't it amazing how that happens? Like you had no problem packing your stuff to go. But something about that unpacking is a little more challenging than the packing was. So do understand that there's work that's going to come with that. Unpacking takes work, and it's not as much fun as the packing was, because you were anticipating something in the packing. You were going somewhere you knew for sure, but the unpacking is the coming back into our real lives. And people are less excited often about coming back to their real lives as they were escaping their real lives. So in relationships, when you choose someone, you start out with the packing going into the relationship. But when the real person shows up and their real issues show up, the unpacking begins. And too often, many of us just leave the crap inside the suitcase. And you never get to the life that you were supposed to have because you haven't even dug through to know that there are a pair of socks you needed. There's your favorite sweater. Turns out that this is your favorite blanket. You'll never find out any of those things because you didn't want to do the unpacking. So our past has a lot to do with the way we handle the stuff that's inside of our suitcases. But you choose. Okay.
Let me piggyback on that and say that let this be a learning example for all of us, especially those that are single and you've been through before and a relationship has failed. Make sure that you take time to become whole. Mm-hmm. Don't get a rebound situation and bring all of that over here. But take time enough to get healed emotionally, psychologically, and all these things before you jump into something else. Because isn't it that tendency to want to fill that void, and then you find yourself in another situation, and then you got more baggage that time. So make sure that you take time to get healed and take what you need for yourself, and don't look for it in a partner. Look for it in the Lord first. Mm-hmm. And once you become whole, then now you can get into a relationship and have a better chance for success.
Absolutely. because whole people make whole relationships. And that nonsense people always tell you, the easiest way to get over someone is to get under somebody else.
Oh, my Lord.
Y'all see my face, right? The rebound relationship is always messy. Always messy. So exactly what Pastor said, get whole first. You'll choose differently because you can smell the rat before it comes down the street. Okay? Okay, go ahead.
Next question.
Absolutely.
How do you stay in a marriage when you love each other, you still have passion, but you have nothing in common? I'm starting to feel bored and I'm always alone, but I have a good husband.
Poll. See, y'all too tight. We told you grown folks dancing. Real solutions for real people.
Oh, I like that. Can I see that? The question, I like to have it in hand just so I make sure I answer the whole thing. So how do you stay in a marriage when you love each other, you still have passion, but you have nothing in common? I'm starting to feel bored, and I'm always alone, but I have a good husband. That's good honesty. So here's what I would say. As a woman who has had seasons of boredom, you know, you're married for 20 years. Don't let anybody lie to you and tell you there's never going to be a boring season, okay? There is. There are. And it doesn't, and what's interesting is that the boring can happen on the inside. Nothing could change on the outside. Everything could be the way that it's always been. And somehow on the inside, you feel like something's missing. I will speak from personal experience. I have discovered that boredom has less to do with my husband than it has to do with me. See, there used to be an old saying, I don't know if y'all speak to your parents, okay? I talk to my parents, all right? And it used to always say that the idle mind is the devil's workshop, okay? Y'all know that, right? And when you leave a relationship unattended in either direction, I'm talking about the spouse not attending to your field at home. I'm talking about you as a woman not attending to your own field. I'm talking about you as a woman not attending to your spouse's field. So this blame can be equal going all the way around. Anytime you leave something unattended, something else will start to grow. You know, I reference soil all the time. My dad happens to garden. And anytime he comes to visit us, he has to go back and pluck a crap ton of weeds out of the garden that he left unattended. Now, any other time, the garden is beautiful. It's producing incredible vegetables. I mean, like they eat everything from the garden. You know, it is just fresh, no kind of pesticides, the whole 9 yards, because it's being maintained. But as soon as he leaves, things that you could not see to the natural eye, just enough time allows for weeds to start growing. And if he's gone long enough, the weeds will overtake that same garden that was beautiful just a couple weeks ago. It doesn't take long in a relationship that is unattended before people start to feel bored. It doesn't take long. But that is why it's important that every day in your relationship, you are investing in some way or another. Good men are hard to find, y'all. And don't get me wrong, there are lots of good ones out there, but they're not always easy to find because the good ones tend to be quiet and they're minding their business. It's the crap ones that are allowed and available all the time. Okay, there's a plethora of them around. You can drive down the street, and if you didn't look to the left, you know he's to the left. You know why? Because his music is so loud, he's going to make sure you look to the left. But the good one is just driving with his windows rolled up, minding his business. Bad stuff is always loud. The road to hell is fully financed, and there's all kinds of incredible marketing. But heaven is a quiet and constant space. When you have a good man and you recognize that he's a good man, make the effort to tend to that field. If there's something missing in that, go plant what it is that you want. It is your relationship is your relationship. It's nobody else's. What you produce is based on your tending of your field, nobody else's. And in the times that I was getting bored, more often than not, I was not spending enough time with God. I had gotten so good at, and see, here's what's really interesting. We have a way of going to autopilot with Christ. Okay, I spend an hour with you each day. I do this, I do that. But you know what? That'll have you right here. But then the thing that comes with that is we grow and change as people, which means our experience with him now moved from here, where this was enough, to now we're here and we're still doing this. This is no longer enough for where we are in our lives. So now I'm feeling boredom because there's a gap between me and my God. And when you change the amount of time you start spending with your God, and in various ways, whether it's reading, whether it's worshiping, whether it's sewing, whether it's serving, when you are busy finding ways to be able to serve him, you don't have a lot of time to be bored. There are so many people in need. There are so many things you can fill in those spaces. But boredom happens when we get consumed with ourselves. What do I need? What do I want? What about me? My feelings, my issues, my. I don't know if you knew that he was going to be gone a lot when you married him. But here's one of the other truths. Men are trained to be providers. We raise them that way. And what's funny about us as women is we'll raise men that we don't want to be married to. We teach our boys, don't cry. But then when we get married, we're complaining that our husbands don't show their emotions. There's conflict there. Do you see the problem? Because I've told you that real men don't cry. So I'm telling you to stuff your emotions because that's what's going to make you a tough little man. But then when you become a grown man, the woman that's going to spend her life with you wants you to be able to access those emotions. She doesn't want you bawling all over the place. That's not what I'm saying. But if you need to cry, we much rather you cry than you drink a whole bottle of Jack because you can't handle your emotions. We rather you cry than you run from home because you can't handle your emotions. We rather you cry than you be a workaholic because you're trying to find places to stuff your emotions. Come talk to me. But you've got to be able to create the environment that those things are okay. So where this relationship is concerned, I would say to you first, check if there's a gap between you and your relationship with Christ. The thing that he's calling you to at a different level, which is why your previous meal is not enough anymore. That space wasn't about a space that your man needed to fill. That was the space God wanted to fill. And for as long as your man is your God, there's no room for God to be your God. But if he's a good man, and you know he's a good man, check and see what it is that you need to be doing to be able to create more of what you need and want in that relationship. Because good men will do almost anything they can to take care of their women. All right? Okay.
Now, the marriage bed is undefiled. That means when you close your doors, do I need to say anything else? See, we too deep. We too deep. We sanctified in church, we go home sanctified, and we keep our marriage in a box. See, that time she's talking about, when you spend that time with the Lord to fill that void, that boredom, he might speak to you and tell you to go to Victoria's Secret and get you a whip. Watch me whip. Get you some handcuffs. And please make it red with you. That red lingerie just do something to you. and stand at the door like that when he comes through the door, I guarantee you, your boredom will change real quick. Now look at the person next to you and say, "You just too deep." All right, next question.
All right, let's switch this one up. Ooh, wee. How should a wife handle a mother-in-law that has an issue with her son leaving and cleaving to his wife?
Well, this answer is actually more simple than you think. It sounds real complicated, but it's not actually as complicated as you think. It's not the mother-in-law you got to train. It's your husband. Because that's his mother. And let me tell you a battle you will never win. You try to come up on his mother face to face, you're out of your weight class, baby. And here's the thing.
Uh-oh. What you say?
To your pastors. To your pastor's Victoria's Secret reference. Let me tell you what his mama can't do for him. Okay? There's certain things she ain't never gonna be able to do for him. And certain things that he will fundamentally always need that she will never be able to do for him. So you have to understand, and I'm not suggesting that all your power meets or rests at the meeting of your thighs. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that there's something very unique about what we are able to do in covenant. And you are able to exercise that unique power as often as you so choose. When you're intimate with your husband, and I'm not talking about in the motion itself, I'm talking about being intimate with your person. Because you could be physically with someone and be mentally somewhere else. You could be physically with someone and emotionally worlds away. Intimacy is about all of you showing up, mind, body, and spirit. And we'll talk about that a little bit. If we don't touch it where the questions are concerned, remind me, we're going to revisit that, okay? But his mama can't go certain places with him. But you have the opportunity to be able to make clear to him what it is that you need, assuming that your relationship is strong enough and that he didn't marry you just to have another mama, because that's a whole nother issue, okay? Then you can speak to your man about what it is that he needs to work out where his mother is concerned. She will hear her son better than she will ever hear you. Because what she wants is to hold on to her son. And he needs to be able to do two things. Make it crystal clear that he now has a wife. But also make it crystal clear that that's not a competition for you, Mom. Because these are two totally different roles. You can't be my wife, and I sure as heck don't want her to be my mama. Because if that's what he's thinking about during Victoria's Secret's moments, we got a whole nother set of issues. You need counseling at that point, okay? Deep therapeutic clinical counseling. It is very important that you know what your role is. Just like I knew I don't belong sitting here, you need to know that your responsibility isn't to be able to run up on his mother. Your responsibility is to have appropriate conversation with your man, no matter what kind of pressure that requires between you and your man, because this is who you have covenant with. You don't have covenant with his mother. So it is his job to handle his mother. It is your job to make clear to your husband what you need him to handle. But you don't get in between him and his mother. And if he does not ever want to leave that space, believe me, what is meant to happen in that relationship is going to happen anyway. Because you're not going to be able to fight with the mama. And you can't be married to a man who still wants to be a little boy. It'll settle itself.
See, that mama thing, I tell you, you're hitting on something there. Because, and I think of what I hear you say on the other side of that, that if a man don't stand up and handle his business with his mama, then Victoria's Secret not gonna do any good.
That can't fix it.
It's a turnoff.
Because if he's a child, children don't play at Victoria's Secrets.
That's true. That's true. There wasn't no one if they saw one. Huh? All right, next. You ready for the next?
Yes, sir.
All right. Should a husband compliment his wife often?
Like mayonnaise. Yes. And I say like mayonnaise because salt and pepper you sprinkle. Okay? I compliment you once a week. I remember to say something cute about you, on Tuesday, it's Tuesday. But mayonnaise, you slather mayonnaise all over stuff, okay? You just smear it all over the place. It's mayonnaise, it's butter, it's creamy. You just put it everywhere, okay? I mean, I'm trying to tell you. And I think this goes both ways, okay? Because men are very deeply motivated by verbal affirmation. Very deeply motivated. Men want to hear good things about themselves. So I'm not just saying that this is something that should just be about men need to be complimenting women. I think you need to be complimenting your man on a regular basis. It needs to go both ways. I'm telling you, Matthew Lyons thinks he walks on water, all right? So it's easy to talk about the tough things because you have such an account that's filled, really filled with all of these positive deposits that occasionally every marriage is going to require that you have to make a withdrawal. The problem is when you overdraw your account because you got to say something negative, but you didn't put enough positive stuff in there, so now your account is negative. But when you deposit frequently, you got $10,000 in your account. When you got to make a $20 withdrawal, it's not a big deal. It's not going to tear up the relationship. It's not going to have people feeling ugly and acting stink for a long period of time because you have enough money to be able to support the withdrawal you need to make. That is true for your women. That is true for your men. Compliment each other often. Every woman wants 3 things. Every woman. So for every man, raise your hand. You acknowledge that you are a man in this room, okay? Every man. I better not see no girls with their hands up. Every man in this room understand the following things. A woman wants 3 P's. Passion,